30 teams, 30 catchers. Let's rank them using statistics. Coming in last at number 30 is Martin Maldonado for the Chicago White Sox. He's currently listed as the starting catcher, and that is not a good thing if you're a Chicago White Sox fan. Maldonado got a lot of playing time on the Astros over the past few years because he was good on defense. He was always bad at the plate. There is a slight problem though. Last season, he was one of the worst defensive catchers in the league, as his FRV, or fielding run value there at the bottom of your screen, was in the first percentile at -16. That is not good. Negative numbers are below average. Fielding run value combines framing, blocking, and throwing stats into one number to determine the value a catcher provides on defense. Maldonado has never been good at the plate, and now he is awful defensively. He is the worst catcher on this list. He put up an awful F4 last year because Dusty Baker really is living in the 1990s. He shouldn't have been playing, but he's last here at number 30. Up next at 29, we have Connor Wong for the Boston Red Sox. He strikes out a lot. He doesn't walk much. He doesn't hit the ball hard. He is a below average defender, just not someone to get excited about. At 28 is Rene Pinto of the Tampa Bay Rays. One thing that is very concerning with Pinto is that his walk rate is 1.9%. That is very low. He had 2 walks in 105 plate appearances. Not what you like to see. He also strikes out a lot. Over a 30% K rate. He did put up a WRC plus of 98, which is just under the league average of 100, so he did get good results offensively in 39 games last year. I'm just concerned about the sustainability of that number with the walk and strikeout rates. He's only 27, but if you even go back to his minor league numbers, they show similar results. Number 27 is the Colorado Rockies starting catcher Elias Diaz. He was an all-star last year, but by the end of the season, his numbers didn't look too good. He was below average offensively with an 81 WRC plus and below average defensively with a -5 fielding run value. He's going to be 33 years old next year, so most likely he won't be getting much better. Number 26 is Nick Fortes from the Miami Marlins. Fortes might be the worst hitter on this list, but he does provide some value defensively. He was a black hole in the Marlins lineup last season, as indicated by his OPS and WRC+, but at the catcher position, that isn't the end of the world. Defensively, a lot of his value comes from blocking pitches. He's in the 97th percentile in blocks above average. He is also an above average framer. In 2022, he was closer to a league average hitter, so there is some potential that he could return to that form offensively, and if he does, he would make a pretty good catcher when you combine that with his great defense. That is a big if though. Coming in at 25 is Salvador Perez for the Kansas City Royals. It is the end of an era. Perez was not good in 2023, not at all. He was a below average hitter, which is not good because that was the only thing keeping him afloat as he aged. He is 33 years old, the defense is not there, the offense is now gone. He put up a -F4 in 2023 thanks to a below average 86 WRC plus and a -8 fielding run value. He's still up here at 25 though, just because it is Salvador Perez. There is a world where he can turn it around offensively, but he's not going to be providing much value anymore. It is sad, but it is true. At 24 is Yan Gomes of the Chicago Cubs. Gomes is getting up there in age as well. This is going to be his 36-year-old season. He's still not awful defensively, and offensively, he quietly had a pretty good year in Chicago in 2023. Just like Salvador Perez, though, he is most likely only going to get worse. We aren't going to see a resurgence here at age 36, but he did prove that he can still be serviceable. He put up a 1.0 F4 in 2023. There have been much worse numbers put up at the catcher position. At number 23, with these next 2 catchers, you just find yourself asking, what happened? As 23 is Tyler Stevenson for the Cincinnati Reds. If you look back at his offensive production in 2021 and 2022, you would say that this ranking is way too low, but he was not the same in 2023. It was easy to predict that he wouldn't sustain that type of production, as his underlying numbers said that he was getting pretty lucky. His WOBA was outperforming his expected WOBA by quite a bit. Expected WOBA only cares about the quality of contact that the hitter makes, so if your actual WOBA outperforms that, then that means most likely you got some luck to go your way down the road to do better than you were expected to. In 2023, his expected WOBA went way down to a career low, and he even underperformed that by a little. So on top of not even hitting the ball that well, he was also getting unlucky. Defensively, he was one of the worst catchers in the league. He's never really been known for his defense, so that is probably not going to change. So where is he going to be for 2024? Probably somewhere in the middle. Not quite as good as 2022, but I don't think he will be as bad as he was in 2023. Number 22 is Keibert Ruiz from the Washington Nationals. He was by far the worst defensive catcher in the league last year. He doesn't frame well, doesn't block well, and doesn't throw well. He's in the bottom 6 percentiles in each category. I went through and found some of the worst frame jobs of the season here, and I want to take a look at this one specifically. In real time, you might think, oh, this looks good, works up, tries to make that pitch look better than it actually was, but if you slow it down, you can see he starts low as he should, then he comes up just to go back down, get the ball, and then bring it up. You want to be one fluid motion, catch the ball, work up, stick it in the zone. Ruiz starts low, comes up, goes back down, catches the ball, then brings it up. Am I a professional catcher? No. I'm just saying what I see. Is this bad umpiring? Yes, but it is also bad framing. When it comes to offense, Ruiz doesn't strike out at all, which is cool, but he also doesn't walk. He was a top prospect. He is still only 25 years old. Now all of a sudden he is the worst defender in the league at the most important defensive position, so he has to work on that. Number 21 is Shea Langoliers for the Oakland Athletics. He was never going to be a good defensive catcher. He was known for his offense, especially his power, even when he was just a prospect. Last season, he had some promising underlying numbers. He had an 88th percentile barrel rate. Everything else, though, is not as appealing. The walk and strikeout rates are not good, and he produced at a below average level with an 87 WRC+. He is only 26, and the upside is there with the power bat. Number 20, Austin Wells from the New York Yankees. He's pretty similar to Langoliers in the sense that he's not going to be great defensively, but he does have some intriguing upside at the plate. In a small sample size last year in the majors, he was good. If you go look at his minor league numbers though, he had a walk rate above 11% every year he played in the minors. That is a good sign to see that plate discipline. He's only 24. He's currently the Yankees' number 2 prospect on Fangraphs. He has the build. He has the lefty swing for Yankee Stadium. It could be an interesting year for Wells in 2024. He's going to be splitting time with Jose Trevino. How much time? I don't know, but hopefully they give him some consistent playing time because the offensive production I think will be there. Breaking into the teens at 19, we have Henry Davis from the Pittsburgh Pirates. You can look at the WAR numbers from last year and get easily disgusted, but a lot of that is from him playing the outfield, and he is not good at it. He will be the starting catcher this year with Andy Rodriguez needing elbow surgery. He wasn't drafted at number 1 overall for his defense, though. It was for his bat. Last season, it didn't go well for his bat. But if you look at his numbers in the minor leagues, you can see where the hype is. He had a 186 WRC plus in AAA last year, a 170 WRC plus in AA. I think as he settles in here in 2024 at the catcher position, we could see that offense start to translate to the majors, and if it does, he will definitely be higher than 19. 19 I felt was a good middle ground. Coming in at number 18 is Logan O'Hoppe for the Los Angeles Angels. He hasn't played much due to injuries, but the offense has been there when he is healthy. The underlying numbers were also good last year. Defensively, he hasn't performed all that well. He hasn't been a good framer. He hasn't been good at throwing out runners. The offense is there, though. He just needs to stay healthy, and he could put up a good offensive season. Another young guy here at 17 is Luis Campusano of the San Diego Padres. He put up some solid offensive numbers last year, a 134 WRC plus, only 49 games, so don't look too much into that. His WOBA did outperform his expected WOBA, so I definitely expect some regression on the offensive side, especially if he plays a full season. Defensively, he hasn't been all that great. He is still young, only 25 years old. He has the potential to be a pretty good offensive threat for the Padres in 2024. Number 16 is Ryan Jeffers from the Minnesota Twins. Some people are a lot higher on Jeffers than I am. I can see why, but I have some concerns about him. The offensive production last year was very good. You can see that with the 138 WRC plus, but the underlying numbers are not as promising. He outperformed his expected WOBA by a pretty large margin, which screams regression going into 2024. I still think he'll be an above average hitter, just maybe not a 138 WRC plus guy that you can put in the middle of your lineup. If you combine that with his below average defense, for me, he is a middle of the road catcher. At number 15 is Jake Rogers for the Detroit Tigers. Coming up as a prospect, Rogers was praised for his defense as he was given a 70 grade in that category according to Fangraphs. That continued here in the majors as he had a great season defensively. Last year in his first full season in the majors, he also showed off his power. He was slightly below average offensively with a 97 WRC plus, but he had a 78th percentile barrel rate. Combine that along with his great defense, he could put together a great 2024 season in Detroit. Number 14 is Bo Naylor of the Cleveland Guardians, another guy where the numbers suggest some offensive regression, but there are still some good things to look at. The walk rate is great, all the way up at 13% for a rookie. He was solid defensively in a small sample size last season, and even if the offensive numbers come down a little bit, he will still provide some value. He is only going to be 24. He graduated as the 29th best prospect in the league according to Fangraphs. He's most likely going to get better. He had the power numbers in the minors. He plays solid defense. The future's looking good for Bo Naylor and the Cleveland Guardians. Another young catcher here at 13, this time the Arizona Diamondbacks starting catcher Gabriel Moreno, former top prospect, put up an above-average season offensively and was even better on the defensive side. The walk rate could be better, but he doesn't strike out much. He isn't going to be much of a power hitter, indicated by his 16th percentile barrel rate, but he makes up for it by making a lot of contact and finding base hits. He was in the 100th percentile in caught stealings above average, meaning he was great at neutralizing the running game, which in 2023 with the new rules was more important than it has been in the past, and it is going to continue to be important as the rules obviously stay in place for 2024. Number 12 is Yainer Diaz of the Houston Astros. Diaz, of course, was a victim of Dusty Baker last season, who was living in 1998, trotting out Martin Maldonado for his leadership every game. I think the 127 WRC plus from a catcher overpowers the leadership quite a bit, but that's just me. I'm not an MLB manager. Just giving my 2 cents. Unlike some of the guys below him on this list, his underlying numbers were great with an 84th percentile xWOBA, so most likely that 127 WRC plus wasn't just because of luck. The walk rate is a little concerning being that low, but the power is there. He didn't do well at framing last season, but he made up for it with his blocking and throwing. He only got to play 60 games at catcher though, as he got a lot of time at DH, so I don't think we should look too deep into the defensive metrics in a small sample size like that. Number 11 is JT Realmuto. You might be thinking, one bad year and you lower him this much? He's been a top 3 catcher in the league for years. Well, it's not the fact that he had a bad year, it's the way that he was bad, if that makes sense. You know, if he had a down year offensively, I'd be more forgiving, as he could definitely bounce back. You see that all the time. The problem is, he had a good year offensively. He had a WRC plus of 102, which is above league average. He was one of the worst defenders at the position in the league. In the past, he was always regarded as a top catcher in the league because of his defense, his ability to run the bases, along with being a league average to slightly above average hitter. The defense was so low mainly because he was in the 2nd percentile in terms of framing. He still has the best pop time in the league at 1.83 seconds, but in the modern game, framing is king. Realmuto's never been an elite framer, but he's always been at least above average. The base running also plummeted as he had his first below average base running year of his career. Base running may not seem like much, but that is where he made his difference compared to most catchers in the league. Of course, it still is JT Realmuto, so I still have him relatively high on this list because we know what he is capable of, but he is going to be 33 years old. The odds of a bounce back year get lower as the age increases. Getting into the top 10, leading us off is Francisco Alvarez of the New York Mets. Alvarez didn't have the offensive impact a lot of people thought he was going to have as a top 10 prospect in the league, but he did have one defensively. He had an inverse year of Realmuto on the defensive side, as he was an elite framer, 95th percentile, while his blocking and throwing were below average, but as I said before, in the modern game, framing is king. Coming up as a prospect, nobody was talking about his defense, he was up there for power. Fangraphs had him with a 40 grade defense, which is below average, and 70 grade power, which is well above average. The defense is kind of just an added bonus. He did hit for some good power in 2023. He had a barrel rate in the 84th percentile. Strikeouts were a little bit high, but that is expected with a hitter of his profile. If he grows into his power here in his 2nd season while keeping the same defensive value, he could finish much higher on this list. Plus, he's only 22 years old, so breakout year could happen at any point. Number 9 is Alejandro Kirk from the Toronto Blue Jays. Great defensively. Offensively was a little down last year. The strikeout rate at 10% is in the 98th percentile. That is elite. The walk rate is also good. The problem is his average exit velocity went all the way down from the 78th percentile in 2022 to the 19th percentile in 2023. That kind of confuses me. You don't really see a fall off like that happen for a guy who's only 25 years old. I'm not a Blue Jays fan. I don't follow the team that closely. I tried researching for a possible answer to why this happened, but I couldn't find anything. If you have a possible explanation, let me know. I think a bounce back year is in the cards. I still like his strikeout to walk numbers. He just needs to start making hard contact again, and he will be a valuable player. The defense is going to stay there. I have him here at number 9. Number 8 is Patrick Bailey of the San Francisco Giants. There have been very few catchers ever, at age 24, come up to the majors, play 97 games, and establish themselves as the best defensive catcher in the league. He was the 100th percentile in framing is king. He was also in the 96th percentile in caught stealings above average, and in the 95th percentile in pop time. He's the top defensive player at the most defensive demanding position on the field. Offensively, some improvement is needed. The walk rate's pretty low, the strikeout rate's pretty high. He put up a 104 WRC plus in the minor leagues last year before getting called up, so he does have that potential. The strikeout rate jumped up when he transitioned to the majors, which is expected. That could definitely come down as he settles in. Anything he does on offense, though, is just a bonus with his defense. If he puts up just league average hitting, he will be one of the best catchers in the league. I have him here at number 8 just because his floor is so high. At number 7 is Wilson Contreras from the St. Louis Cardinals. He's been here for a while, one of the best offensive catchers in the league. He's not the best defensively, but he is one of the few catchers that can provide above average offense. Last year, 127 WRC+. He also had great underlying numbers. Wilson Contreras, you know his name. He's good. Slot him here at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is Cal Raleigh, representing the Seattle Mariners. 4.7 F4 last year tells you the story. He's good all around, switch hitter, hits for power, good framer, high barrel rate. He put up back-to-back great years. I think we know what we're getting now when it comes to Cal Raleigh. He's only 27 years old. He's entering the prime years of his career. He could get even better, just not top 5 yet. There are 5 guys here that I would rather have, but it is very close. Number 5 is World Series champion Jonah Heim. He was one of the top defensive catchers in the league last year in the 97th percentile in fielding run value. He was 96th in 2022, so most likely that will continue going into 2024. Offensively, he's a switch hitter, doesn't hit for too much power, he's about a league average hitter. I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but I tend to look at defense more than offense at the catcher position, and that is the main reason why Heim is up here in the top 5. He will be a perennial 4-WAR player as long as he keeps up his league average offense to go along with this elite defense. Number 4 is Sean Murphy of the Atlanta Braves. Murphy had a weird year last year. Obviously, the offensive numbers look great, but if you dive into some of the splits, it can get a little weird. He had a 166 WRC plus in the first half of the season and a 69 WRC plus in the second half. I don't tend to care too much when you're good during the season, just as long as the overall season's good, but this big of a gap raises some questions. And those questions are mostly in the consistency. Is he going to be good for a full season? Something that you can't question is the defense. Similar to Heim, he's been at the top of the league for the past couple years, and that will probably continue. The underlying numbers on offense are elite though. Just take a look at this Baseball Savant page. Can't get much better than this. It was a smaller sample size at 108 games, but I am confident that he will be a top 5 catcher next year. I put him here at number 4. Number 3, the player the Braves gave away to get Sean Murphy, William Contreras. I don't think the Braves are mad, but the Brewers are certainly happy with the way that trade took place. The biggest piece they gave up was Esteury Ruiz to the Athletics. The A's suck, man. What are they doing? That was a disaster trade for them. Anyway, Contreras was obviously the great hitter going into this year. He played DH on the Braves quite a bit in 2022 and made the All-Star team. Then he came to the Brewers, and he decided to work on his defense and went from one of the worst defenders to a great defender, especially in the framing department. Framing is king. Offensively, he did overperform his expected WOBA a little, so you could expect some regression there. He also is only 26, so he's probably going to get better anyway. The main reason why I gave Contreras the nod over Murphy is I feel that Murphy is in his prime. He's hit his ceiling, whereas Contreras, he's 3 years younger. He has a better chance to really fortify himself as a top catcher in the league. Number 2, Will Smith from the Los Angeles Dodgers. I know I've been talking up the defense, and Smith is closer to average, maybe even a little below average in that department, but offensively, he's just so good, so consistently. His expected WOBA is always high, 2020, 96th percentile, 2021, 84th percentile, 2022, 88th percentile, 2023, 78th percentile. He did have a down year last year, but still managed to put up over 4 WAR. He walks a lot, doesn't strike out. His 119 WRC plus last season was the worst in his career, and when that is your worst and you're playing catcher, you're doing something right. Finally, we get to number 1, the easiest pick of all here, Adley Rutschman. Do I really need to explain it? Switch hitter, doesn't strike out, walks a lot, hits for power, good defensively. What more do you need? Believe it or not, his WOBA was only 352 while his expected WOBA was 373, which means he underperformed what he was expected to. He could have been even better. He's only 26, the most obvious selection I had to make for this video. That is going to wrap it up for the ranking. Here's the full list. You can pause the video to review. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you want to see more rankings. Goodbye.